where there's money, there's going to be some fiddling. Let's talk about how to pass UBS's video interview. Hey, it's Mike from Job Ready English. We help international students get hired, and in the Pass the Interview series, we break down the interview processes for world famous companies. Subscribe to the channel to get new videos every week. Make sure to hit that like if you enjoy this video, and put a comment down in the description below if there's another video you'd like us to do.
I want you to tell me what to do.
There's something that you feel like we missed out, or there's something that you'd like us to add for next time. Today we're talking about UBS. So who is UBS? They employ over 70,000 people in over 50 countries, and they are the largest bank in Switzerland, with almost 4 trillion Swiss francs assets under management. And they also in 2020 had a revenue of just over $36 billion. UBS is also one of the oldest banks in the world and is commonly mistaken for the Union Bank of Switzerland, but in fact it is an amalgam of over 300 different banks, one of which was the Union Bank of Switzerland. And the famous 3 keys that you see as their logo is a merger of the logo between the Swiss Bank Corporation and the Union Bank of Switzerland. It's a wonderful bank. It is a top tier investment bank. And today we're going to go through the interview process for UBS. UBS's video interview is a little bit different from what we've seen in other interviews, for example, with Goldman Sachs or with JP Morgan. UBS uses a software called Sonru, which is from an American firm called Modern Hire. Many of you wouldn't have heard of Modern Hire in the UK, but they're really widely used in the States by companies like Delta Airlines, Amazon, and Netflix in the US. However, though the software may be different, the format is something that we're quite used to, where we have 6 questions and then 2 minutes to answer and 30 seconds to prepare in between. Though candidates have reported some differentiation. Some have reported 6 questions, some have reported 8 questions. Also, stick around until the end, because I'm going to tell you about something which UBS does in their video interview, which is quite unique. At the end, they give you 2 minutes to essentially say whatever you want to say. And I'm going to tell you how I think that you should use those 2 minutes if you were one of our clients and we were preparing you. For those of you who have watched our other videos, and I know that there are lots of you, thank you so much for your support. We're going to go through a fairly methodical style that we've done pretty much with most of the banks, where we have motivational questions, competency questions, and then commercial awareness or technical questions. And at the end, we'll deal with those 2 minutes. So let's start off with motivational questions. With UBS, you can expect 2 of these questions, maybe one or the other, which is namely, why UBS? And why do you want to work for this role? Why do you want to do this job? So let's do a quick recap. How do we answer, why do I want to work for X company? Well, something that I always like to say is pick 5 facts that you couldn't say about anybody else. You can get them from their About Us page, the history. We've actually got a couple of links down in the description below. UBS have got this really wonderful PDF about the 150-year history from 1862 to 2012. I realize it's a bit geeky, but you can learn a lot of facts really quite easily. Try not to get caught into saying things like, I want to work at UBS because they're really good, they have big clients, they have great training, they have... All of these things may be true, but they are generic. We could say them about any company. So a good way to just check what you want to say when you're talking about why this company is to think, could I say this about anybody else? Could I say this about Credit Suisse? Could I say it about BNP Paribas, for example? And if you could, then maybe try and pick something else. Another thing to think about with what type of facts is you really want to pick facts that resonate with you or that you kind of care about. Now, all of them may not be the case, but there should be some interest in there for you, because if you find it boring, when I'm watching you, I'm going to know because you're going to look bored. And if you're really struggling with that, check out the link in the description below for cover letters that get interviews. It's our free Skillshare course about writing great cover letters. And in there, I actually describe how to write an answer for this question. Why do you want to work for this company? And I even give you a really handy step-by-step worksheet all for free. Why this role? Okay, so we expect this question. We should be familiar with the job description. We always want to think about answering this question in two parts. Number one, what would you do? What would your 9 to 5 be like? What would be the daily task that you would be expected to do? Would you be by yourself? Would you be by other people? Would you be in the office, out the office? What kind of projects would you be expected to work on? And the second thing to think about is, what are the skills and experience that you have that will match the role that is required? Are you analytical? Are you good at maths? Have you got great teamwork skills? Have you got good leadership? Are you cool under pressure? What are the types of things that they're looking for? And you can find that in their job description. And again, if you're unsure how to answer this, check out cover letters that get interviews, our free Skillshare course in the description below, because I give you a video about how to answer this specific question, and also a worksheet that you can go through, which will be really helpful for you forming an answer. Something to think about how not to answer this question is just to speak about yourself or the opportunities that it would give you. A really common line that I hear very often from candidates when we first start to work with them is, it would give me great opportunities. I would get the chance to grow. I could travel. I could do this. I could do that. Now, from an employer's point of view, they don't care. They're not really that interested. They know that it's a great company with great opportunities. They want you to demonstrate your understanding and really the thoroughness of your research. We're not talking about something that's going to take a long time. You could get that done in 15 minutes, but most candidates won't bother at all. And then are really baffled why they don't progress through into the next round. Competency questions. So like we've done in other interviews, we're going to just pick out 2 or 3 questions that personally I like the look of. I think they're interesting, and also they're a little bit different. We all know, or we should be able to learn quite easily how to answer, tell me a time when you worked in a team. Tell me a time when you led a team, and so on and so forth. If there's a particular question that really baffles you, would you like me to do a video about that? Pop a comment down in the descriptions below. Or what's a question that kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense to you and you'd love somebody to explain that for you? So I picked out 3 questions for you, and we're just going to walk through the process of answering them. How have you previously demonstrated skills or behaviours in the past that are relevant to the role that you're applying for? Nice question, very broad, this one. Generally, we would have a question that would just pick one skill. So what I'd say with this question is we'd probably pick out 2 or 3 of the main skills for the job. You'd be familiar with the job description, whether you're applying for, markets analyst, finance, IBD, corporate, whatever you're trying to do. So pick out, it's always useful to make a list of skills that they're looking for, and also what you're going to be expected to do, because that's what they're going to test you on. And then you could just, in that 2 minutes, you could pick 2 skills, for example. Just give 2 quick star-based examples. Next one is, describe a current event impacting the industry. Now, we've talked about this before in other investment banking interviews, and this is really common. More and more so, I suppose this hasn't really changed since I first started prepping candidates in 2013. Banks always want candidates who are on the pulse, because naturally you're going to get in, you're going to be braced, you're going to go through the markets wherever you are, front, middle or back office, and then you're going to reset and come back and do that again. And banks want people who are interested in finance. And to be honest, some people aren't interested. Me personally, I'm not that interested. It's just not really my thing. I've gone through that phase. And if that's not you, you're at least going to have to try and fake it to make it, and make sure that you keep up to date by, if you're really not that familiar with Bloomberg or CNBC, or even sort of more complicated as the Financial Times or the Economist, just read BBC Business News. Just go on to bbc.co.uk, click on business and see what's going on. And there's some really simple language and terms which can be defined there. And you can also cross-check that with Investopedia. On the other side, for those who are financially sophisticated, who are watching this, you don't need to go overboard. You don't need to really dig into the minutiae of it. Probably you've already got the knowledge. And if you're, say, for example, I have dealt with clients who are trading on a daily basis. They are very much au fait with the markets and what's going on. And for them, it's just about picking one thing and simplifying that. Finally, describe a time where you were in an unethical situation. What did you do and what is the result? Another kind of common theme that does come up is just the element of integrity. Where there's money, there's going to be some fiddling. There's going to be some things that are happening which are untoward, and often banks, professional services and financial institutions will just throw that in there a lot of times. So you might kind of struggle to think about how this relates to you, because probably, you know, you're a nice person, you've not really been in that many unethical situations, or if you have, it's not really something that you want to talk about. What I tend to find is a common theme that comes up is people being asked to either compromise on the quality of their work in a group scenario, or maybe just copy somebody else's project or something that seems relatively harmless. Generally, people don't cheat because they like cheating. They cheat just because it's easier. They just have to do less work. I don't think implicitly they are immoral. It's just the path of least resistance or least friction that they're following down. So that's an example I've dealt with time and time again with different candidates. And just as an indicator for you to think about how to answer this question. Just any time when you're having to compromise your personal principles or standards to do something because somebody else probably doesn't want to work that hard. Commercial awareness and technical questions. I wanted to give you 3 more questions to think about so you know the level of complexity we're talking about when we say technical questions. I'm not going to give you too many indications about how to answer them, because I strongly suspect most of the people watching this will know better than me, because I don't come from a finance background. But it gives you an idea as to how you should think when applying for different roles in terms of technical questions. And these are questions that were asked for markets or investments analysts. Give me an example of a recent merger that would pay dividends. Why? Give me 2 metrics that you would use to choose to assess a company. And if you were given £5 million, what would you invest in? Now, the last question, the first 2, I don't tend to come across too much. The last question, I've seen this question asked a lot over the years, particularly for investment analyst roles, because essentially that's your job, right? It's just thinking about, what's my job? Well, I'm going to be working in corporate finance. Tell me how to construct a discounted cash flow model. I mean, if you can't do that, then really you shouldn't be doing the job. It's like turning up at a mechanics and saying that you want to work there, and someone gives you an oil filter and says, cool, can you change that oil filter for me? I've already jacked up the car. And you're like, oh, I don't know how. And they're like, why are you here? You don't actually know how to do the job. If you want to be a mechanic, then you should probably go and train first. When you're done training, why didn't you come and see me afterwards? And I think that's something that's often missed with jobs, where people say, oh, I don't know how to do this. But you should, because that's what they're asking you to do. There is a minimum requirement or a standard of skill, some more technical jobs, and you should know how to do that. If you don't know, that's fine. You have the internet, so you can learn, like, for example, from videos like this. You can go and learn how to put together a discounted cash flow model, but you shouldn't feel like you're being persecuted against because you can't answer that question because you were too lazy to prepare. All right. So finally, just as promised, UBS is quite original in the sense that at the end, they will give you 2 minutes to say, oh, did you miss anything out? Is there anything else that you'd like to say? Now, me personally, if I was doing this, I would do my personal pitch. So I would do my personal introduction. So I would talk about, what I'm doing right now. What's my background? What do I want to do and why? What's my work experience, skills and interest, and why I'm the right person for the job? I think a lot of people will probably use those 2 minutes to kind of just blather on about how they really want to do the job and they'd be really good and please give me a job. And there's nothing wrong with being like that. But when you think about it, desperation is not effective because it's not useful for the other party involved. I mean, it might play on somebody's heartstrings, but if it's being looked at from an AI, you want to be a person who comes across as strong, confident, independent, knows what they want, and ambitious. That's generally the kind of personality characteristics that we associate with banking or with these types of companies. So if you get the chance to do those 2 minutes, make sure you really refine your personal introduction. You can check it in the card that should be popping up above my head if you want to know how to break that down. Guys, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel so you can get notified every week we've got new videos. Hit that like, drop us a comment, let us know that you enjoyed the video or what question you'd find most difficult, or maybe what video you'd like us to do next, and see you next time.